You're experiencing the Authentic Chaos Podcast, an exploration into our inner selves and journeys of self-discovery. I'm your host, Vahagan Yernosian. And today, we're going to talk about a topic that everyone loves to talk about, moderation. It's dry January, and for those of you who are doing this this month without alcohol, there's probably a reason why you did it. I know there's a reason why I did it. I am doing dry January just because I try to be mindful of the amount that I drink. And that in my recent years, I'm not as young as I used to be. I want to moderate the amount that I do consume alcohol, in this case, so that way I can keep enjoying it in the future, but at a more responsible rate. And so what's the drive behind this moderation? Why do we want to not enjoy the things that we enjoy all the time? Like, why not drink all the time, or eat all the time, or play video games all the time, or watch shows all the time? If any of you have had, too much of one thing, there's the saying, too much of a good thing isn't that great. It's a bad thing. If you've had too much sugar, if you've had too much, watched too many shows, sometimes, like especially too much alcohol, you feel sick. You realize your system isn't ready for it, and you feel bad afterwards. So how can something that's so good turn so bad? Well, maybe it's not all good. Maybe the things that we're thinking are like we paint as good are actually more complicated than that, but our ego gets in the way and decides to put labels on things. It says, oh, sugar is good. We like that because ego likes sugar because it's high in calories, great for brain activity. Oh, we like alcohol because we like the way it makes us feel. Or, oh, we like watching shows because we get these rushes of emotion and it's pleasurable. Or we like doing our hobbies because we get these dopamine rushes. But there's more to it than just that, than these easy labels that the ego is placing on these activities or these things that make them more complicated. Like sugar, yeah, it tastes good, but too much of it, our bodies can't adjust to it, and it causes health problems. Same with alcohol. Our liver can only process so much, and if we consume too much, it starts to degrade our liver. And with shows, if you watch too much, your eyes can hurt, and maybe you feel like a little dulled, or you feel drained after it. So there really isn't a 100% good and a 100% bad in the things we enjoy and the things that we don't enjoy. It's more complicated than that. And the key to I think a real big reason why we want to moderate is really just being more honest with ourselves. It's recognizing that these things that I'm doing aren't 100% good or 100% bad. They're complicated, and I'm trying to respect myself by putting boundaries on how much I do them. In the case of alcohol, yeah, it makes me feel good, but it does hurt you in the long run. So, I want to moderate my intake by participating like dry January, or being more cognizant about how much I drink in general. And in doing that, I am respecting the thing I'm consuming. And now when I do enjoy it, I really do try to enjoy it. And I don't just drink anything that's handed to me, but I drink things that I want to drink. And it makes it for a more pleasurable experience. So, how do we get to this state of moderation? For some people, it's difficult to moderate. I was having a chat with a good friend about dry January specifically, and she was mentioning that she got through 2 weeks, and then a friend was like, hey, let's have a drink. And then she maybe drank a little bit more than she should have and felt a little crappy the next day. And there's no judgments around it. We don't want to apply any judgments to like the things we do and the outcomes that we have. But it's interesting that we have such a hard time moderating, or like sometimes when we go back to enjoying the things that we're trying to moderate, we find it takes over our life again, kind of like a bad relationship. And I think part of the reason why we run into these situations is that we're not really being aware of what we're doing. We're not being present when we're partaking. I had, so a bit of a personal anecdote. A couple of years ago, I had a troubling reading. I got a checkup and I had a bit of like elevated liver enzymes. Alcohol was causing some damage to my body in a measurable way, and I decided to take a break. I took a month and a half off of alcohol, and luckily I got back to normal in my readings and didn't suffer any long-term damage. But the scare really taught me the importance of respecting what I'm consuming, what I'm putting into my body, so I can build boundaries around it and form healthy relationships with them. So after that, I decided I wanted to be more cognizant of when I'm drinking. So I started counting the amount of drinks I have, and I would put a limit to myself, maybe like stick to only 3 drinks a night. And I would count every time I had a drink. And sometimes I'd be like, I want to have another drink, but I've already had 3, so I'm not having a drink. And that I did that for a few months. And now I don't like really count, or I don't like have a limit. I don't try to judge how much I drink, but I do count how much I drink still. And I'm aware of everything that I drink and when I drink it. And just that act of non-judgmental awareness, like don't judge yourself. Judgment will only make you like get defensive and then try to avoid being aware because you're trying to hide from your judgmental center, your judgmental ego. But if we are aware without judgment, we starve our ego a little bit. We don't let our ego get to judge us. They don't get that power over us anymore. Instead, you're just aware. You know what drinks you're drinking. You count the drinks you're drinking. And now I find I don't really drink as much as I used to. And it's not because I can't drink as much as I used to. It's because I don't want to drink as much as I used to. I drink enough, and then I'm aware of my state, my mental state. And once I've reached the state that I want to be in, I'm happy there. And I recognized I don't want to be in the state of like total blackout. I want to be authentic. I want to be present. And my friends want me to be present. My loved ones want me to be present. So I'm not doing anyone any favors by overusing and being like having this unhealthy relationship with alcohol. So only good things can come from building these mindful, moderate relationships with the things we enjoy. I love enjoying sweets. I have a massive sweet tooth, but I moderate my portion sizes when I do it, so that way I don't like take in too much sugars for my blood sugar levels, just in case. I brush my teeth thoroughly to avoid like tooth decay, and I make sure to have a balanced diet in general. Eat lots of vegetables. Respect my body in that way. Try to eat some meats, but like slowly limit on like red meats. Things like this. It's all comes from a place of respecting where my body is and using that as a tool of moderation. So let's say you're someone who wants to moderate an aspect of their life. Maybe you've had a little bit of judgment toward yourself about the amount of alcohol you drink. That's a pretty common one, so let's use that as an example. And so you want to know, how do I maybe build a healthier relationship? Well, you can start exactly as I started. a few years ago. You can, so first, just maybe set a limit for yourself, a limit where you know that after this point you get like blacked out. Set that limit a little bit before that point and just count. Just get in the habit of counting and being aware. And then start just feeling how you feel at those moments after each of these drinks. Be aware of how you're interacting with people around you. Be aware with how you're interacting with yourself and how you're thinking about yourself. Are you happy with how you are? Are you feeling like you're being authentically you in each of these stages after each of these drinks? And then maybe journal it a bit. Write down some of these reflections if you remember any of them, or take some notes, even mental notes. Over time, you'll find that even if you don't set limits for yourself, you will have a state of mind that you like being in when you're with your friends. And so you'll maybe drink to get to that point, and you'll have a good time. But now I want you to take a step deeper, because I want you to recognize that it's not the alcohol that's putting you in that state of mind. The alcohol might be helping you to get to that state of mind, but you are getting to that state of mind. It's your consciousness that is getting to that place. And so I want you to start just feeling that and being more aware of your consciousness when you're in a more sober states. Do you get close to that point that maybe a couple drinks gets you? And if not, how come? What's the block between you and that state? Because that state is you. When you drink a couple drinks and you're like having a good time and you're like being open and honest with yourself, that's still you. But you're also you in this state too, in this sober state too. These are just different parts of who you are. I kind of referenced this in my episode on expanding consciousness, and it's kind of the general idea of the theme that we are more than who we think we are. We are more than what our ego says we have to be. We are complex. We are the consciousness behind our thoughts and our emotions. We experience our emotions and we think our thoughts. And we have more control over who we are than we think we do. And part of that is recognizing that you are you even in different mental states. It is all the same you. And so how do you get to that point, those feelings, that state of mind in a more sober state? Maybe this is where therapy could help. Maybe this is where journaling could help. Mindfulness definitely helped me, just reading about experiences from other like mindful journeymen, and readings on like Buddhist teachings and things like that. Yoga helped, meditation helped. And it's part of your journey of figuring out who you are, of finding your authentic chaos. So moderation is really an important part of this. And I know I used alcohol as an extensive example here, but this applies to a lot of other things. If you have a hobby that you really enjoy, but maybe some people in your life think that's maybe consuming too much of you, or maybe you have a hobby you enjoy, but once you're not doing that hobby, you feel like way different. Maybe like you're depressed when you're not doing it. Well, that's something that requires some moderation too. You need to be more, you should be more mindful about the state of mind that you're getting into when you're doing that hobby and trying to understand what's really behind it. Is it really the dopamine rush? Or is that rush triggering a part of you that that is you? It is still you. It is still a version of you. How do you access that when you're not doing the hobby? And so now this moderation, like the desire to moderate yourself, is not actually a punishment. It's kind of the start of a journey of expanding yourself, expanding your mind, finding your authentic chaos, finding the ways to feel the same way when you're not doing that thing that you're trying to moderate. Because ultimately, we do these things for a reason. They make us feel good. And I want you to understand, I want you to like really focus on what is that good and how do I bring it into my life? Because there's no reason that good, that these parts of us that we enjoy shouldn't be like characteristics of us. There's no reason they should be tied to external things. They are part of our mind. We just have to get past our ego a little bit to really appreciate them. And so maybe moderation can be considered as an exercise of starving your ego to feed your soul. But especially if you think of it in a bigger context than just, oh, I'm going to go a month without drinking alcohol. Like, that's fine. But you might be missing the point if you go back to immediately binging afterwards. You're using the mindfulness, as a punishment rather than an opportunity to grow. And why shouldn't we have these opportunities to grow? They are present in our lives constantly. Literally, our bodies are telling us, hey, I've had enough of this, let's take a break. But there's no reason why we can't still be that person that our friends enjoy when we're doing our favorite hobby or going out for drinks or cooking or whatever that really brings us out. We like that. If you like that person, that version of you, seek them out. Become that version of you. Don't let it just be tied to the world. Let it be tied to you. Let it be part of your foundation. Let it be part of who you are automatically. Once you do, you'll start to moderate your ego. And like I mentioned once we start to moderate our ego, starve our ego, we feed our souls. We find our authentic chaos. I know I'm repeating myself, but this is like a pretty important concept to me, because I feel like a lot of people choose to make themselves miserable because they tie their happiness to the things that are outside of themselves. And if we do that, then we let the world run our minds. Instead, I want you to turn inward and find that peace, find that joy, find that love within yourself. And then once you do, it will become your foundation. You will be unshakable. Your vibe will be immaculate. And people will notice. People can tell when you are authentic with yourself. People can tell when you have healthy relationships within yourself. And part of that is having this healthy balance with moderation. So whether you're trying to cut back on something or maybe even do more of another thing, I want you to focus on, main takeaways I want you to take from this are, 1, the things we enjoy aren't all good. There are some downsides, and we have to recognize that. Likewise, the things we don't enjoy aren't all bad. They have some upsides. Reality is complicated. Then I want you to remove your judgment, moderate in a non-judgmental way, and start with just awareness, non-judgmental awareness. Then I want you to be just aware of yourself and reflect on who you want to be, not just who you are. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. And as always, embrace your chaos with kindness. Good night.